The GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli, comes to Zandvoort this weekend. The first time the championship has been to the Dutch seaside circuit, and race one is coming up shortly, with qualifying having been quite a lively affair this morning, not only in terms of lap times being traded, but also one or two teams finding themselves in the wars. And indeed, the car that was on pole position for this race was then damaged later in qualifying for the grid that set tomorrow's race. Philippe Pret's team hard at work in a pretty short gap between qualifying and this first race. Fingers crossed that car will be on the grid, and the same for the KTM of Laura Kreimer, which was quick, but then also had an off, and so lost its best lap times by being the cause of the red flag. The cars will venture out onto the circuit very shortly. David Anderson and Joe Osborne are trackside, and qualifying this morning really did buck the trend. A relatively modest grid, but it gave us a lot of drama.
It really did, and it was pretty close as well, especially between the top three. Pret coming out on top over the Lamborghini of Formanek, but the Mercedes of De Martin was strong towards the end, and Pampanini in the Maserati looked good as well. Yeah, it was a shame to lose Laura Kreimer in that session. It doesn't look like she's made the grid either in that sole KTM on our GT2 field.
It's a big disappointment, because Laura Kreimer and Mato Homola, quick drivers, and Laura Kreimer had gone second fastest, and then had this moment coming over the brow at the approach to turn 7, and off the road the car went. It was rear damage, but they've just run out of time really to be able to glue it all back together again. So that means that the KTM will be missing off the back of the grid. There is the car that has had 2 Pro-Am wins. The championship has a Pro-Am and an Am category. Formanek will start, and Stefano Rossini will take over that car, the Lamborghini Huracan that last year Formanek drove in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Pole position, though, to the Maserati. There it is, of Philippe Pret. At the front, looking rather different from how it was in qualifying, because it was the front that took the brunt of the damage in Q2.
Yeah, and it was the same part that got damaged at Ricard as well. So obviously on their third front bumper, son Louis Pret, their bodyguard for his father, who is in the zone. But yeah, it was a big old smack of damage. The LP Racing team have done well to fix that. But yeah, the telltales of bare carbon. Just literally got the Pirelli, the Maserati badge, and Monaco on there. But he'll be focused, but he will have it in the back of his mind. The last time he was sat in that car, it was hard nosing into a barrier.
That's right. There to line up third on the grid is Alberto De Martin, the Spanish driver, sharing the Mercedes AMG with Neil Montserrat. And if that car can stay in the mix going to the pit stops, then it should be good for a competitive result, may even challenge for a win. And that is the car that runs in the Am category of Pascal Gibon, who will start, and Christophe Bouret, who will take over.
Yeah, that Mercedes is a real star of the grid, isn't it? And it's looking pretty in the sun, and all the drivers in. They will be getting warm, but yeah, they're getting there.
Let's go to the grid. Alex Legui with Neil Montserrat.
Nils, you start on the second row of the grid. You're both very strong, experienced pedalers. What do you think you can do here?
We will give our maximum. I think we are in a really good position to start. The quali was very good for Alberto. Very proud of the progression of Alberto this season. It's amazing to see him performing so well in GT2. We are working together for a few years in GT4. It's our grow up to GT2, so we are very happy to be on front. We really expect to fight for the overall podium, let's see.
Yeah, I would have thought so. Your, your qualifying session is as expected. It was good. How tricky is that to convert it into a good race result generally here?
For us, the race is the key point, the second stint. As you all know, we have the more heavier car, so we struggle a lot on the second stint. But we are managing very good with the setup. The AMG is an amazing car on quali, and also an amazing car on race, but we have to manage very good the second stint.
Good, great, best of luck.
Neil Montserrat then will do the second stint today, but the opening stint tomorrow. You start the race for which you have qualified. There, lining up on the third row is the Dynamic Motorsport Maserati that Roberto Pampanini will start. Mauro Calamia will take over. That car was a winner in Barcelona last year, but they've not had a brilliant start to the season. It never quite gelled at Paul Ricard, and it didn't quite click this morning either.
No, they went early, didn't they? They did the most laps out of anyone in Q1, but faded towards the end as the tyres came in. And while we talk about tyres, just remember, no tyre ovens allowed in GT2. So all of these cars will be on cold tyres. So they will be frantically warming them up on this formation lap. Yes, ambient is up into 17 degrees now, but these tyres want to be at 80, 90 degrees. So that's a huge amount of energy they've got to create in 4.4 kilometres around here at Zandvoort.
And it's going to be a 1 hour race, mandatory pit stops, and of course cars with 2 drivers will have differing paces depending on who is behind the wheel. Let's go back to the grid. Oliver Frymut, AM Championship leader with Alex.
Ollie, starting back here, but it's a small grid. What can you do? We know you've got pace.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult with the balance of performance weight, additional weight, and we have to wait at the pit stop 10 seconds more. That's quite a lot of time. I think will not be so successful this time.
Well, fingers crossed.
And the second quali, it was better. Yeah, but from here, I will see what will happen.
Good. Best of luck.
I'm a bit worried about Oliver Frymut here because he's talking about having to serve an extra 10 seconds in the pits. It's 10 seconds if you are a 2-driver entry. He is a soloist. He has 14 seconds. So if the team release him at the 10, he's going to cop a penalty.
Yeah, hopefully the team have just lied to him and tried to downplay how long he sat there. But you're right, he should be in pit lane for 152 seconds, where the base time is 1:38. So, yeah, quick math, that is definitely 14, not 10.
3-minute board shown as there's another of the Lamborghinis. Then they sort of bookend the grid. Not quite outright fastest, not quite outright slowest, but one on the front row, one on the back row. A number of drivers and teams unable to commit to the Zandvoort event. But as the countdown continues, then the cars, of course, will have a rolling start. So once the grid is cleared, the lead car, as it will be, Maserati leading car, will blast away. The race cars will chase off, get the warmth into the Pirelli rubber, and then we will be in business for our first visit of a GT2 race to the Zandvoort circuit. It is a warm day, it is a sunny day, but it's quite windy, and it's a chill wind as well. And the downside of the wind, of course, is that it can blow the sand from the beach over the road onto the circuit.
Yeah, 25 kilometres an hour gusts, so it looks pretty still in pit lane, but you can see those flags on the left-hand side, top of the garages. They're not sheltered by that grandstand, and that's all the way around this circuit. You're open to the elements, apart from this 200-metre part in between the grandstand and pit lane, so it definitely affects the cars. And as a driver, you're trying to see it. You can see the KTM there, left of picture, is a confirmed non-starter. Must have been so close to being ready. The rear wing reattached, bodywork looking good, and the car's physically in pit lane, so really unlucky.
Well,
for that,
unless they can start from the pits. I mean, it might be that they've elected not to go to the grid because they were working on the car. They're going to be on the back row anyway. So if you start from the pits, you've bought yourself a bit more repair time. You're still going to be last on that one as you would have been had you been on the grid. Yeah,
we're getting reports that they've literally just turned in pit lane, so I think you're right. The only negative of that is the tyre temp thing again. You lose the formation lap, but yeah, you're in the race. That's the most important bit. Just before we went to that, the longest shot here, and there is the KTM getting ready. So will they be able to to be able to join the back of this pack as they roll through, or will they have to wait for the start of the race? We will wait to see on that, but you could actually see the dust and the sand getting blown onto the track on a previous shot, which was a good illustration of how dirty this place can get with the wind.
The answer to your question is it's normally the start of the race, but the race director may feel that for safety reasons the car is, as you suggest, better off doing that formation lap. But normally if you start from the pits, it is on the first lap, but sometimes cars are allowed out on the formation lap, start at the back, and therefore they have that lap of safety through the warmth in the tyres. The engines are fired up, the grid has been cleared. 15-second board is the last one that is shown, and pretty much at that point the leading car is ready to blast away. Look down from the drone hovering over the grid, that long pit straight down to the famous Tarzan hairpin, and it is to that the drivers will accelerate in due course. The drone creeps above the cars off the grid, and Philippe Pret, who, of course, now has to not only try to blast away from pole position and lead the race, but he's also got in his mind the fact that the last time he was behind the wheel, he had a moment and damaged the front of the car. He's going to try and exorcise those demons as the formation lap gets underway. Down towards Tarzan they go then. which has been the scene of many dramas over the years at Zandvoort. The pit lane with the wall on the inside loops on the inside of the corner. So rather than coming out of the pits into Tarzan, you come onto the circuit the other side of the hairpin. That was one of the changes made when Formula One returned here. Philippe Pret starts on pole position. Brunet Formanek with him at the front of the grid. Both of them fastest in their respective classes, Am and Pro-Am respectively. Alberto Di Martin will start third. Pascal Gimont will go first, lining up fourth on the grid in Mercedes number 53. Then it is going to be Roberto Pampanini and Andre Rocoche in the Mercedes AMG alongside. And to complete the grid, Oliver Freimuth, and then from the pits now, Laura Krahammer at the rear. The KTM is repaired, and just looking to see... No, he's going to start on lap 1, as the rules dictate. So, the field working its way over the brow up towards turn 7. Drivers not only weaving, but also accelerating and slowing to try to urge a bit more warmth through the brakes, into the tyres, and then getting ready to go. So Philippe Pret, soloist, and he is, having not been in the top 3 in his class at Paul Ricard's second race, devoid of any pit stop penalty. So this could play into his hands, not only for a class win, but even maybe an outright win.
Yeah, there's a lot of penalties, and like we said, a lot of frame. 14 seconds is the most out of anyone, but the least is still 3 seconds to that dynamic gold Maserati. You can see in the background weaving left to right, and this is the problem. This formation lap, it's a formation lap. It's not even safety car pace, so you're unable to generate as much temperature as you want. And this race, obviously, pit window 25 to 35 minutes for all of those cars, so there's enough time for them all to get in as the KTM patiently waits. We hear that they are hopeful the car is fixed. They had less than 3 hours to get that car repaired, so that would have been all hands on to get that sorted, and hopefully they can get to the end of this race.
But even if they have to make a pit stop to do a tweak or two, it is worth persevering for points within the category. It is worth trying to get to the end of the race, even if the car is not 100%. And also, it's a useful test exercise for race 2. So the cars now then come out of the Hans-Ensbach. They come towards turn 13, and then the next right-hander is where the banking really kicks in for the Arie Luyendyk Bocht, formerly the Boss Out curve, but now named after Arie Luyendyk, the Dutchman who made a name for himself initially in Europe, but then really racing in IndyCar. And with the buildings in the background, that gives you an idea of where we are, and with all the buildings, why noise was an issue for a while at Zandvoort. But now the circuit totally embraced by the local community once again, a real focal point for the area, and has brought, thanks to the Grand Prix and thanks to major international events like this, a lot more people into the area, which is all good for local business and tourism. So, leading car for the pit lane. Driver's attention to the lights. And race 3 of the year in the GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli, ready to go. That Mercedes look on the second row of Pascal Gimont needs to get back in line. That will appease the race director as the lights are about to blink green, and we go racing then. Good getaway by Philippe Pret, but there the Mercedes of Alberto Di Martin tries to look between the middle of the 2 front row cars, can't do it. A little bit deep into turn 1 goes Brunet Formanek. He cuts back across the front of the Mercedes, all of which enables Philippe Pret to get away by a length or 2. They wriggle their way now up towards turn 2. Then the banked Hugenholtz-Boch, named after John Hugenholtz, the circuit designer, into which Philippe Pret leads the way there. Di Martin goes low, looks like he's closer, coming out of the corner rather less so, and also on his toes, look, in the second of the Maseratis, making good progress. Roberto Pampanini there.
Yeah, got past Gibbon with good drive out of turn number 3, and now pulling away. Di Martin in the middle of the road. Is he just covering the inside, or is he nervous about being on the outside? Car's still working, tyre temperatures. It's going to be another couple of laps until we're into our full potential of lap time. But Pampanini started quickly, isn't he? We saw him being aggressive in qualifying. Seems to be playing into his hands at the moment.
Out of turn 9 they can then for the first time. Pret leading Formanek then. They both lead their respective classes, and battle is on for third as there, look, Roberto Pampanini is now right onto the tail of Alberto Di Martin. We saw Pampanini come into GT2 at the back end of last year. Di Martin is new into it this season, and right now Pampanini, who said this morning he races better than he qualifies, is certainly living up to his bill matter. He's right there, and he wants third by the end of the lap.
Yeah, he looks pumped up, doesn't he? Pampanini flashing the headlights into the mirrors and hopefully trying to distract Di Martin there. few car lengths back at the moment. Can he get a run here? They'll be full throttle now, all the way down the pitch straight. These cars punching a big hole, so slipstream playing an effect. The problem is it also does take front aero off, so you do get some understeer cars running wide there. It's still weaving as well, trying to get some tyre temp, cleaning the tyres too, but the front two pulling away at the moment.
Through Tarzan then, Pret and Formanek. The gap between them 11 tenths at the end of the opening lap of the race. There is Oliver Freimuth, and Laura Kreihammer has not, I think I'm right in saying, exited the pit lane. We haven't got any sector times for that car. So there you've got the battle for third place. It is still De Martin ahead of Pampanini. Coming up now towards turn 7 with Pascal Gibon running in 5th. He's 2nd in AM. And there's the fight for 3rd. Right, Laura Kreihammer now, I think the KTM has gone across the line and the transponder was kicked in, so she is circulating and they're assessing how good that car is as each lap goes by. There then is Pampanini. Well, he hasn't cleared the Mercedes yet, and the danger is he's going to get stuck there and let the top two pull away.
Yeah, Pret is pulling away, isn't he, at the moment? Purple sector 1, 2 tenths quicker. Formanek in that Lamborghini behind. Formanek will be doing everything in his powers to stay with Pret. This has been a really composed start from Pret. You can see the damage on the front of the car. That will be in the back of his mind, but now he'll be fully focused on getting these lap times down. In qualifying, he was on pole with a 37.3. Last lap was a 42.7. That shows you how much still there is to find in these tyres. 5 seconds. Maybe this lap will be a low 1 minute 40, looking at his sectors, and then they'll start to chip away. Yes, they've got more fuel in, and yes, they'll be looking to save these tyres because it is an hour-long race.
Race leaders then come up towards the timing line. Pret leads the way and has done the fastest lap of the race then now from Brunnet Formanek in 2nd place. Then it's up again, a 2.5 seconds now the margin, as therefore 3rd place, De Martin versus Pampanini down to turn 1. Now 5th behind them is Pascal Gibon, whose last lap was a 41.8. He's dropping away slightly therefore. His lap times are good and they are improving as the fuel load comes down and the tyres get warmer and give more grip, but he's not quite able to stay with De Martin and Pampanini. And Pampanini is also struggling to find a way past the Mercedes. If anything, they're coming out of turn 3. The gap stretches.
Yeah, it's starting to go away from him, isn't it? We saw this at Ricard with lots of the cars ebb and flow with pace. They would start quick, fade, and then get a second burst of life and come into it. De Martin's still very narrow in that Mercedes into turn 7. My worry of that is he's going to be working the front tyres much harder, inducing understeer, so the front tyres are effectively skidding across the surface, and that can take life out of them much, much quicker than optimising the line. So that could be something that comes into play for that lead Mercedes in the pack.
There is Pascal Gibon, 2nd in AM at the moment, with Andre Rocco's Mercedes AMG 3rd in AM, as that's the Pro-Am leader. It is Brunnet Formanek, who intriguingly is not staying with Pret, is he? We heard in qualifying from Stefan Rossina, and he was surprised that Formanek wasn't fastest outright. Rossina was in his session, but at the moment Formanek is leading his class happily by 4 seconds from De Martin, but he's dropping away from Pret. So an outright race win here is looking a bit less likely for that Lamborghini, especially as they've got 10 seconds of compensation time to serve in the pits for winning the last race.
Yeah, the only thing to obviously hugely factor in is the pace of Rossina. He was very quick in Q2 earlier, so I think if Formanek can maybe keep that gap within 9 to 10 seconds, Rossina might have that pace deficit to make up. I think he probably has got the strength to do that over Pret, but Formanek needs to dig deep now and start to churn some laps. In that last lap alone was 1.5 seconds slower than Pret in front.
Yeah, so the Philippe Pret Maserati, no extra compensation time in the pits, 10 seconds for the Formanek Rossina Lamborghini, so it would be a big ask, potentially 20 seconds or so to pull back, but possible. And of course a safety car in the second stint would also turn things upside down as well. Looking down then at Andre Roccoche there in 6th place, heading through the dunes down towards turn 7 with that beach-like gravel trap awaiting any visitors. Survives that corner. The short run now on towards the next right at turn 8. Another gravel trap there to catch out the unwary, and then the road here sort of keeps on turning, doesn't it, down towards turn 9.
Yeah, you can tell that's where the circuit was redesigned and reprofiled. It just doesn't flow right as a driver. It looks okay from this drone shot, but it's really awkward and it pinches tight and it catches a lot of drivers out there, and you end up just having a very lazy accident to the barrier on the left. Unfortunately, Laura Kreihammer is in pit lane, so she got out, did a lap or two actually, and then had to box.
I'm not convinced that the graphic we have on our timing display with the pit stop time is accurate, because she's been there for 6 minutes and that's about the race time. I think there's a transponder gremlin, so I would worry not about that. I know we haven't seen the car yet, but I don't think she is in the pit lane. I think there she is, in fact. So something's going wrong with the transponder on that car, and it's pretending it's still in the pit lane, or maybe the transponder is in the pit lane. But the car is most definitely on the circuit, and it looks okay.
Looks really okay, doesn't it? And,
Yeah.
she was behind you, basically.
That's
And,
right.
yeah, pace looks good. That puff of smoke on the upshift is quite common for the KTM. We saw it in qualifying. We saw it in Paul Ricard as well. Pace of the car is good, actually. Last lap, 1:40.5. That's on par with Formanak in P2, which is the car directly behind this. But at the moment, Philip Pret is in a class of his own. Purple, Sector 1 on this lap. He's the only driver to be in the 1:38 so far in this race, using all the road on the way in and out of corners. He's happy to hustle this car. Big slide there, starting there, 700 horsepower afforded to these drivers under their right foot. Yes, they've got traction control, but it's not as optimized as it is in a GT3 car, for example. So you really have to be on your toes in these cars, and we've seen a few drivers get caught out by them.
And on this lap, Pret's done the absolute best in the first sector, so getting more confident. The car is getting lighter on fuel. The tyres are working nicely now. You can see that repaired front end. It was quite a whack, and it was a really weird incident that he had in Q2. He came out of the pit lane, and as he put the power down, the car sort of didn't so much spin, it just veered left for whatever reason. He drove it back to the pits, the repair work started. In terms of best times in the first sector, it is Pret from Ronit Formanek at the moment, and over the timing line, another lap in the book. That's 5 now done for Philippe Pret as he goes by, and that lap was the fastest of the race, a 1:38.527 now, so he's looking strong. And he really has shaken off Formanek, hasn't he? And this early doors means the gap is 6 seconds. It's going to be a big gap by the time we get to the pit window.
Yeah, the last lap alone, again, 1.6 seconds quicker. So this gap by the pit window could easily be into the mid-teens, 15, 16 seconds following on this trend. And that is the visual gap there. Formanek sweeping through. You'll now see the Mercedes and Martin just coming to shot. So they're all spaced out quite equally at the moment in the top three. Lara Krahammer now into the 39, so her pace is good. She'll be praying for a safety car to bunch everyone up, and then she'll be able to pick off a few of the cars in front potentially.
And that car as well doesn't have any compensation time to serve in the pits, the KTM, and we know that Matto Homola for stint 2 is a quick driver, so yeah, an early safety car would certainly give them a lifeline. It would also help this car as well, because it would negate the time being lost now, bearing in mind they're going to lose 10 seconds to the outright race leader on the pit stops by dint of winning the last race. So Ronit Formanek then accelerates towards us, the radical turn Formula Renault racer. More recently, he's been in Lamborghini Super Trofeo and the Michenek Motorsport team, well versed in operating the Huracan, adapted from one make to GT2 regulations effectively, and going nice and strongly with Oliver Fryman's similar car, of course, now running in the AM class, where Pret leads from Gibbon and then Rokosh. Here is Formanek. Let's see what his lap time is. It was a 1:40 last time, so as Pret does a 39, through goes Formanek, and his last lap, when it comes on the timing display, is a 40.3. That's 8 tenths lost.
Yeah, that is the smallest loss he's had, though, in the last 5 laps, so it's still a loss. It's all in Sector 2 as well, which starts from turn 7 and runs into turn 11. Here we see on the screen the battle for the second place in Pro-Am Cup, and this gap's been pretty consistent since the opening lap. Pampanini did well at the start, got a couple of places, but now is really just sort of stagnated this gap behind De Martin in front. It was down at 9 tenths, grew up to 1.5. It's now currently at 1.2 seconds between them. So they're very, very similar, and he'll just be praying from a mistake from De Martin, or potentially those tyres to go off, and then he can pounce.
But what these two aren't yet being able to do is catch Formanek. So they're on a comparable pace to one another, but just as Formanek is losing a little bit of time to Pret. So these two are losing a little bit of time to Formanek as well. Down towards now turn 9 they go, and there Pampanini seems to close under braking. So the gap at the start of the lap was 1.2 seconds. To the eye it is less now, as they make that run once again out of the looping left, back onto the power from 10, and now the straight that takes you down towards the Hans Ernst Bocht.
the balance of performance working well, but you're right, under braking, look at that. He takes another couple of lengths out of him and doesn't get compromised on exit. So it wasn't he broke too late. And now De Martin will be all in his mirrors, vision all over the place. This is where mistakes start to up the ante. And can Pampanini now start to really double down his efforts and get this car second in class, this position would be, but third overall as well.
To the line they come then, so Pampanini edging closer again to the Mercedes. Alberto De Martini staying for the moment in that third place. The gap is down then, 0.7 of a second as they come over the line. Bit of a wobble through the hairpin at Tarzan there by De Martini. You saw the car quiver as he just grazed the curb on the inside. Pampanini then a little bit nearer, but again, he's now going to try to work out exactly where, even if he is close enough, he can make a move. He thinks about the inside at turn 3. It looks like it's on, but the banking confuses things. Yeah,
it's a short distance, but you're unable to carry any momentum. It's almost when you watch NASCAR, isn't it, how they're able to run a high line or a low line. It's a longer distance, but you carry more speed, and time at the end of the day is speed over distance, is that part of it. So, yeah, it was an interesting look, but I don't think that's a long-term solution unless you go real late on the brakes. And you always do like a block pass, like a speedway move, where you hang them up to the wall, hold them there, and they can't turn in because you're the boss.
And another quiver and a big slide as well from De Martin. Now he's getting a bit rattled possibly. Pampanini is bearing down on him, and a couple of mistakes made on this lap. He goes a little bit wide coming out of turn 10, and now Pampanini has a proper chance to challenge then as they come down the short straight towards turn 11. He's not going to be able to lunge up the inside there. Discretion being the better part of valour and all that, but certainly Alberto De Martin now is under pressure. He's under attack. And Pampanini right there now trying to force another mistake out of that Mercedes AMG, and that would be enough to really catapult him up the order.
Yeah, and my only worry with that Maserati is it under braking is squirreling a lot from the rear axle, so I worry the later and harder Pampanini brakes, the worse that trait will get, and De Martin will have to be wise about that, because it could be a bit of a dive bomb move by Pampanini, almost force majeure, as we see the cars bombing down pit lane, probably getting up to 230, 240 kilometers an hour as they brake into turn number 1, but Pampanini definitely has the bit between his teeth.
He does indeed, and the gap was still 0.7 of a second last time. So De Martin now needs to regroup, having had that pressure lap and a couple of errors made on the far side of the circuit. Now he's looking a little bit smoother again. Good line out of turn 3, back onto the power, stretching the margin to the eye as they come now up towards the Rob Slottermacher box and then on towards turn 7. So there is Pampanini, still 4th. And 3rd in class. Remember, although they're arguing over an overall place, they're also fighting for points at the moment for 2nd in Pro-Am.
Yeah, Pampanini was too aggressive on the throttle there in turn 3, that banked hairpin. You can see the car squirming around, trying to lay down 700 horsepower. The tyre, the chassis will be going, no, 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 it's too much, too much. And the traction control ultimately kills the power, so then it hurts your exit. But he's had a good couple of corners, and that gap has come back down to a length and a half and another big slide. I'm sure the brake lights come on. It'll be interesting to see if that was either Pampanini hitting the brake with his left foot to steady it, or sometimes the ESC systems in this car, when they kick in so aggressively, automatically activate the brake lights. And it looked like maybe the latter was there, but they're tight, aren't they now?
They are, absolutely. Pampanini right there on the back, flashing the lights to try to get a mistake out of Alberto De Martin in 3rd place. But really, the move has got to come at turn 1 at Tarzan, and it's got to start now with a good run through turn 14, get into the slipstream, and then dive up the inside into turn 1. But now you wait and see whether it's power or aero. Is it the Mercedes AMG or the Maserati that is quicker in a straight line? And the Mercedes just looks a little bit stronger. Pampanini has a feint to the inside, more in hope than in anticipation there, and so De Martin hangs on to position. Now, while these two are squabbling, of course, they're falling away from Fomenek, and at the moment, the 2nd fastest car on the circuit is Laura Krahammer's KTM. She was battered 2 laps ago only by Pret. There, again, at turn 3. The gap down between Mercedes AMG and Maserati. Pampanini close, but struggling to work out where to make the move.
Yeah, it was a great view, that, wasn't it? The tighter line looks so attractive on the way in. You think it's definitely going to work out, but then the wider line gives you the ability to open the steering and throttle earlier and drive you out of that corner. So I think Pampanini needs to go back to the drawing board there. He's busy on the flashes, De Martin early on the brakes there. You can see him concertina up. Pampanini has got to bide his time, work out where he's strongest. I think it's in this middle sector that he's got a chance. Is De Martin going to open the door? No, he runs the inside. Look in the background as well as Gibbon starting to close up slightly as well. So this could become a 3-car battle if this rages on much longer.
Indeed so. Pampanini certainly is committed to the task, but he hasn't yet been able to find a way round, as again he looks to the inside, but he's about 2 lengths too far back. So Alberto De Martin coping with the pressure now. He's had that lap where he made the errors. He's regrouped. He might not be getting away from Pampanini, but he's certainly not prepared to let him by. No question about that. Into turn 13 they come then. Turn right, just a tiny bit of a straight, and then turn right again. And this is where the road tilts you to one side. That banked corner flings you back onto the start straight. And in the background, the charging Pascal Gibon, second in AM, goes through. Now, the leader, Philippe Pret, is now very nearly 11 seconds up the road against Bronek Formanek. So he's looking ever so strong here. Perfect way to come back after his qualifying collision this morning with the Armco round about this part of the circuit at pit exit.
Yeah, we can see the graphic of Gibon catching this 2-car battle, 1.2 seconds on the last lap. Pampanini looks to the inside, that's the closest he's been. He's got an overlap, but again, De Martin just drives out the corner and off he goes again. That Mercedes strong in a straight line over the start-finish line. It's 6 kilometers an hour quicker than the Maserati behind it. So I think that's why Pampanini's struggling to get this move done, where you want the speed at the end of the straight. It isn't in that Maserati currently.
So Pampanini again has to go back to his drawing board, work out where to make the move. Lap after lap, you can see the car moving around more. There's more commitment, there's more urgency in getting through. And now there is a move up the inside. Job done, nicely done. And through on the approach then to turn 9, Roberto Pampanini goes up into 3rd and 2nd in class. So the Mercedes AMG drops back. The Mercedes will serve an extra 2 seconds over that Maserati on the pit stops, the compensation times that are added after Paul Ricard. So now look, Pampanini, having gone through straight away, pulls clear, and let's see what he can do about Formanek. He's got a lot of ground to make up, 12.5 seconds or so against that Lamborghini, but now with clear road ahead of him, Pampanini is on a mission.
Yeah, it was a great move. It's not a move we see often into turn 9 into Renault Bosch, but he got it done, and it was great awareness by De Martin as well to see him in the mirror and afford him the space, because normally when you're in a corner like that where you're not expecting the overtake, you're 100% focused on looking through the corner, but he had the ability and the vision to open up the steering and avoid contact. Can he start to find a bit more pace to Martin and get away from this hard-charging red Mercedes of Gibon?
Out of the hairpin goes Gibon in 5th, 2nd in class, and he in turn is fending off the challenge from behind of Andre Rocoche, the other Mercedes AMG running 3rd in AM. So there is De Martin. When they came over the line, bearing in mind the move was done at turn 9 and it's a 14-turn lap, the margin was already 0.8 of a second. And so now the fascination will be to see what Pampanini can do about Formanek, because in the second stint we could be looking at a fight for a class win between those two. Pampanini's last lap was a 42 as against a 40 of Formanek, but now for the first time he's got a whole lap of clear air ahead of him. Yeah,
he's still slow in sector 1, even though he's in clear air. He's 7/10 slower than this Maserati in sector 1 alone, and it's been a dream stint for Pret, hasn't it? He's led from lights all the way to this point now. The gap should be over 12 seconds by the end of this lap. We can box in the next 5 minutes and 12 seconds. Interesting to see what they do. I always think as a single driver, you should probably go long and try and get the most luck out of a potential safety car, full course yellow.
Through Tarzan turns Philippe Pret, and with nearly 20 minutes of the race done as he came across the line, he is in charge. Formanek's Lamborghini goes across the line, 12.7 seconds back. The margin continues to stretch. Now, of course, Pret just needs to make no mistakes. Treat every lap as a qualifying lap, but be absolutely inch perfect. There is Bronek Formanek, who is giving Stefan Rossina a lot of work to do, not only in terms of overall, but equally for a class win. The margin is going to come down a little bit against the opposition because they have got a longer pit stop with that compensation time from the successes of Paul Ricard. So there you've got the second place Lamborghini, still well in charge in its class, and Pampanini will come across the line and he does a 41.7. So yeah, the other Maserati now in 3rd place, Roberto Pampanini, still falling away from this Lamborghini.
Yeah, has got a 2-second gap now over De Martin. Gibon is still closing up on De Martin, even though he's now in free air. So that will be a battle that's forming soon. Guimond now 1.1 seconds behind as we see drivers getting ready. That's Matteo Homola going to jump aboard the 89 repaired KTM car. Laura Krahammer now only 1.8 seconds behind as Racina is getting ready as well. So Krahammer could be on the back of frame within the next couple of laps, I think.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken her that long, because the lap times have been about 2 seconds a lap faster than anybody else. So unless the car joined in quite a long time after everybody else had set off, then it's a bit of a mystery as to why it's taken so long to catch up to the traffic, because it's a quick car, quick driver. It may have been that there was an issue that delayed the car from exiting as soon as they would have liked. However, here you can see the next of the Mercedes battles, because Pascal Gibon has absolutely clawed himself onto the back of De Martin. Now Laura Kramer is going to have a go at Oliver Freimuth, so the KTM has a playmate. This is an AM versus a Pro-Am car, and Laura Kramer has really wrung the neck of that KTM. The pit window not yet open, so she's still got a couple of laps she can attack that car before she needs to think about handing it over. As there, Gibon goes through, goes a bit deep into Tarzan. This is for 4th place, but he made that move stick. And now Alberto Di Martin, 2 places lost, almost as though a bit of the spirit's been broken here. He can't fight back. He's got a problem there. The car looked a bit hesitant. Yeah,
as you see, Krahammer look to the inside. Don't think that move's going to be finished off just yet. But yeah, we said earlier about De Martin keeping the car tight on corner entries. Maybe he's just overworked those tyres, and that's done over. It was a great move from Guimond. It looked like a dive bomb, like it was way too late on the brakes, but he was able to get it stopped. He might have surprised himself and actually realised, oh wow, I can brake 10 metres later every lap now, and that might actually find him some pace and lap time. Krahammer now through the sweeping bends. She'll be all over the back of Freimuth, and this is where she went off in qualifying, which always plays on the back of your mind as a driver too. Yeah, it was that curb that on the outside of the road she touched, and that spat the car off the racetrack. No such dramas this time around. Oliver Freimuth defending nicely here. The KTM darting left and right, under braking for turn 8, turn right. This was where we saw Pampanini make his move to gain a place. Kramer not quite close enough there, so Lara has to slot back in behind Oliver Freimuth's twitching Lamborghini. Race leader in the meantime, Philippe Pret's now done 14 laps, and Lara Krahammer may well have gained the place by the end of the lap. Let's see that KTM, traditionally good through the tight and twisty bits, but has the Lamborghini got the edge in a straight line? It looks like it does, doesn't it? And even traction. So Krahammer here closes right up. She needs to open this exit up of the chicane, try and carry as much speed as possible. Look to have a bit of a lunge into 13, maybe make Freimuth defend, and then that will compromise his exit onto the pitch straight. But yeah, the lap times for Krahammer now dropping off as we see another position lost for De Martin. This time Rokash has got down the inside, same move as the lap before. That was done, talk to nose to tail. That is as close as you can be for Krahammer, and actually Freimuth is boxing, but I believe that's 52 seconds too early. Yeah, it's too early. It's not in the regulation pit window. So Oliver Freimuth comes in, but is this a problem? Well, the car looked okay. The problem is going to be that the pit stop is going to be done outside of the window, because here he is. Now, unless the team are on the radio shouting, keep going, keep going, keep going, and serve a drive-through to make sure you don't contravene the regulation, yep, down the pit lane he goes. So Oliver Freimuth has a self-imposed drive-through because he came in error too soon. Love to know if that was the driver deciding when to box, or there was a miscommunication on radio. A lot of teams have a sort of procedure where you don't talk about boxing anywhere near the window because it can get misheard. Box in one lap, and maybe the radio gets disrupted and all you hear is box, and you don't get in one lap. So that's my most likely problem solution, what has happened there, which is a real shame, because that is effectively lost them 32 seconds. Yeah, absolutely. A long drive through the pit lane. So Philippe Pret, in the meantime, dominates the race here as now the pit window is open. So in comes Bronek Formanek straight away to give that car over to Stefan Rossina, and its track position relative to the clock now works in their favour because they can come in almost as soon as the window opened. I think that was what Freimuth was hoping for. He just slightly miscued it, and Pampanini likewise to come in early doors to give way to Calamia. Yep, so the live pit lane timer is counting up there. Formanek, that needs to get to 148 seconds So 2 minutes and 28 on that clock. Pampanini in as well. That's got to be 143 seconds to Martin is in as well. Now that needs to be 145 seconds. All these teams will be running a few ways of keeping the pit lane timer as good as possible. There's a GPS one in the car normally, but also the old trusty stopwatch. The driver will on the radio call as they're coming into pit lane, 3, 2, 1 line, and then they'll start the stopwatch, and then you kind of work out which one you trust the most. The quirky KTM door, roof, don't know how you want to kind of call that, but the way to get in and out is now open, and we're going to have a driver change and get the next driver in.
Laura Kryhammer jumps out then. Alberto De Martin's lap times have been going up and up and up, so hopefully that Mercedes AMG doesn't have a problem. Here is one that we prepared earlier, Oliver Freimuth back in, but this time for the regulation stop, having miscued it by just under a minute last time around. Philippe Pret, though, is staying out, and of course all the other teams getting their gun driver in as early as the regulations permit. So that is Nel Montserrat getting on board the Mercedes, and a bit of attention to that car.
Interesting, talking the wheels up, that big bar there. It looks like procedure, it doesn't look like it's a problem. Laura Kryhammer saying well done to the team for getting that car fixed. She gave them a lot of work and they responded well, so good job by her as well. Really strong pace, third fastest lap of the race, so she'll be happy with that. Back in the saddle and ready for race 2 tomorrow.
So now Matto Hommler will take over that car, thinking, please, let's have a safety car, because that will buy me back a whole load of time. Equally, he's going to gain some time on these pit stops anyway. That car doesn't have compensation time to serve. As you look there at the now Petrolicia, sorry, no, still Andre Rocoche's Mercedes AMG. That's not yet been in, has it? Nor has Gibbon. So Pret, Gibbon, Rocoche, still the top 3. And Laura Kryhammer celebrating her stint and thanking the team. So there is now Stefan Rossina making his way back on track. So the Lamborghini accelerates out of the pit lane, and Stefan Rossina then into the race. We'll see what he can do about Pret. He's got a lot of ground to make up, that is for sure. There is Philippe Pret, who, don't forget, has no extra time to serve in the pits, and as a soloist knows exactly what the car's going to feel like and exactly what the track is going to feel like.
Yeah, and we're just seeing pit lane time finishes now. So Rossina was good. He was over by 1.2 seconds, so no problem there. And it's an easy place to lose time, the pits, but if you go under, you do attract a penalty straight away. So it's not worth being under. So it's how much you want to risk by getting as close as possible to the delta time.
So there going through is Philippe Pret, and with almost half the race done now, he has crossed the line with the order behind being Pascal Gibbon and then Andre Rocoche, but they've yet to serve their pit stops, as has the race leader. The LP Racing Luca Piri's team, Ran Maserati, comes now over the brow, and Calamia's pit stop, almost calamitous, because it was 3 minutes.
Yeah, 34 seconds, too slow. So that's going to lose them a lot of position. I think that could potentially drop them all the way to 7th place, only with Freimuth behind them, who's just leaving pit lane now. Interesting to see how that went so wrong. They shouldn't be changing tyres, should literally just be changing driver. Some cars do take a dump churn of fuel. We saw that at Ricard because of the high-speed nature. We didn't see Rossina take one, I don't think, because we see a battle on track now between Freimuth and the Mercedes there.
Yeah, the Mercedes of Gibbon has yet to stop, so that's a lap up on Freimuth's Lamborghini. Into the pits has come Andre Rocoche from 3rd place, so the order will shuffle through these pit stops. We'll have a look at it the other side of the window, confirm the order, and then have a look at the gaps as well, as now Petrolicia will get on board in the seat, ready to go in, the cushioning seat, and then he'll clamber into the car as well. All these pit stops done to a time, so it does give the AMs that little bit more confidence of getting in without it being a mad panic. Everything is made ready then for the seat as in comes the race leader. So a really good stint that by Philippe Pret, certainly showing no after effects of the dramas of this morning. Into the pit road he comes then. So he's led all the way. He's done the fastest lap of the race and he's done it from pole position. Tick, tick, tick. His work is not yet done because he's got half the race still to go. So a little bit like we've seen 1 or 2 over the years, like Henri Hassan as an example. He absolutely maximises the time available to him. And tyre pressure's checked. There is the charging Stefan Rossina, but he will have lost so much time, not only through the pit stop, but also Bronek Formanek's pace in stint 1, costing them a bit of ground. He has got a lot of ground to make up. He could really do with Pret having a problem.
Yeah, this isn't the lap for the overtake. This is to unlap himself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the pit stop being that much longer. You can see Pret getting out and now getting back into the car. The tyre pressures getting checked and probably lowered slightly as well. So now Rosina needs to finish this lap and push as hard as he could, but with the 10 seconds extra in the pits and the 14-second gap that Formanak had lost to Pret. Look at the car screwing the braking there. I think it's still going to be at least 18, 19 seconds gap by the time they finish their first flies. And
he will keep pushing, of course, and Pret then has to make a decision as well as to whether the main focus is the AM win or an outright win. Yes, all racing drivers want to win. Now, number 24 is under investigation. That is the Freimut Lamborghini for the pit stop time being too short. What did I say on the grid?
Yeah, annoyingly, you're right, aren't you? And it is too short, so it's going to be a short investigation by about 4 seconds.
Exactly. It's a 2.5 minutes, not 2 minutes 34. So the times are given to the teams in a bulletin, but I'm afraid to say that the Freimut squad has rather misunderstood the regulations. So the AKF Motorsport car will have to come back in. So he gave himself an extra pit stop anyway by mistake. Then the pit stop was done incorrectly because it was too short. So a penalty beckons as Philippe Pret will be allowed out into the race very shortly. The LP racing team ready to release that car. And there is the flying Stefan Rosina. Away goes Pret. So it is going to be a big, big gap still nonetheless. Mauro Calamia, by the way, has done an absolute best final sector as he tries to regroup after the slow pit stop. And there, down the pit road, you chase Philippe Pret, who will retain the race lead.
Yes, a long, long pit lane here. Used to take the pit lane limiter off at that first white line. Now it's all the way almost at the end of the wall there on the right. You can see the speed limit sign as he gets up to speed. And he's got some clear track in front of him. Luckily, that Mercedes had got past. That would have made it slightly different. But yeah, he's got some space to go.
And Mauro Calamia in number 7, the delayed Maserati, the gold one, is absolutely charging because he's doing absolute best sectors. We haven't had a complete flying lap really out of Calamia yet, but he could do the fastest lap of the race the way that he's going at the moment. Now, at the end of this next lap, we'll see what the gap is between Pret and Rosina. That is Calamia, who is coming down now towards the end of Sector 2. Personal best there. The best lap of the race at the minute is a 1:38.5 by Philippe Pret, but Mauro Calamia has designs on taking that fastest lap away from him as he tries to rebuild the race. His target now is Matto Homola. He's fallen back behind that KTM. So Calamia, he's another one that wants a safety car to bunch everybody up ahead of him. Here to the line he comes then. Absolute best Sector 1, personal best Sector 2, and across the timing line now goes Mauro Calamia, and that is the fastest lap of the race, a 1:38.3.
It's amazing what motivation can do when you're absolutely fuming with anger, losing over 30 seconds in a pit stop. And yeah, he'll be well aware of that time loss. So he will be pushing as hard as he can to try and negate some of that time lost. But sometimes it's really like pushing water uphill in that regard.
Let's go to the pit lane as we look at Mauro Calamia. Laura Kramer did that good recovery job and has handed the car over to Matto Homola. Laura is with Alex Le Guy.
Laura, you are going through quite a roller coaster day, aren't you? More ways than one. A really sad qualifying session, but you absolutely nailed that stint out there. How are you doing?
Well, oh my God, it's been a crazy day. To be honest, the qualifying, you know, we were really feeling strong. I felt comfortable, and it's like Zandvoort is a sketchy track. The limits are close, and I was pushing and we were flying and I felt comfortable, and then I just overstepped the limit and yeah, crashed, which I'm incredibly sorry for. But this amazing team managed to establish a new chassis in 2 hours, which made us start from the pit lane, but it was incredible for me to be at the start of this race anyway, and I had the time to get comfortable and I found pace again, and I actually am super happy with the whole performance of the team.
Yeah, pace, they've done an amazing job. You were the second fastest out on track a minute ago. Talk me through the mindset after you come back from a crash like that. As you said, you haven't crashed like that in 5 years, and that was a big crash. So what then goes through your brain as you're coming up to that corner again the next time?
Well, you know, I think the most important thing is to have a team which stands behind you. You know, they just, you know, they caught me up when I was coming from the crash, and to give you the comfort and the trust to get into the car already again so quickly after a crash like that is doing so much for your mental health, you know. And then approaching the corner, to be honest, was tough at some point, but I knew I would just go with 70, 80, 90, 95% and always leave myself the comfort I need. And, you know, also having the team giving me that time made me feel comfortable super quick again. And that's, yeah, amazing. What a story.
Now breathe.
Yes.
Have a good rest of the race.
So Laura Kraihammer then watches on as Mette Hommler hustles the KTM back into the mix. That is the Pascal Gibon, now Christophe Bure Mercedes, that had briefly put itself as the notional race leader, but is now going to drop back down the order as Neil Montserrat charges up towards the line. That was another car that was longer in the pits because of the regulations, but it's now catching right back up onto the tail of Petrolicia. So it is going to be Pret to Rossina, 12.4 seconds the margin when they last came across the line. And at the moment, Rossina actually slightly slower in Sector 1.
Yeah, last lap was 8/10 quicker, but yeah, Sector 1 is that bit slower at the moment. So those three Mercedes still pretty close together. Petrolica looking slightly tentative on pit exit. Tyres will be up to temperature, so that will just be him getting up to a huge experience, and we've seen him be very, very quick at times. So I actually expect Petrolica, the Mercedes that hopefully comes into shot just at the bottom left in the corner there, you can see, to catch these two Mercedes up and make this a three-car battle.
So it's going to be Maserati versus Lamborghini. Sector 2, fractionally better is Rossina. And then Petrolica coming under attack from Neil Montserrat. As Philippe Pret's just gone over the timing line. That last lap was a 1:40.2. That is Oliver Freimuth, who is being given a 12-second time penalty for the pit stop being too short. So he's in last place anyway, but when you're last and you get a penalty, it kind of doesn't matter, other than to frustrate the driver and to have triggered some rather earnest conversations post-race with the team manager, I guess.
Yeah, that'll be the third time that car's been into pit lane in ideally a one pit stop race. So yeah, driver and team will get together, and you sometimes make mistakes and you learn together. And you've got to have the mentality of course, mistakes happen, but you have to do everything in your powers to make sure you don't make the same mistake twice, and they'll put some different protocols in place, I'm sure, to stop that from happening again. I
don't think a third pit stop is due. I think it's going to be just time added on at the end. As you look there at Neil Montserrat going out of the hairpin, he's getting closer to Petrolica all the time. The gap's 0.7 of a second at the start of this lap. Now Rossina is doing personal best sectors all of a sudden, so he's in the groove, and that means that the gap between the leaders is going to come down. 12.4 seconds then now is the starting point. We'll see what it develops from there. In 21.5 minutes, he's got time on his side.
Yeah, and someone that wish they didn't have time on their side probably is Petrolica there, as we see the KTM get the drive on Gibon there just on his first flyer, so that's always hard. We saw his teammate go very long, didn't we? Gibon has done a mega job, but now that KTM is flying of Hommler. Remember, he didn't drive this morning, so first time in the car for him was getting in that car in the pit stop during this race, so that's no mean feat. We saw good pace from him at Ricard, but the KTM probably not suited to Ricard as much as it will be here to the Zandvoort circuit. The tight, twisty nature really playing to the strengths of that KTM car. Yeah,
Hommler, who was a real star in World Touring cars, European Touring cars as well, with limited mileage today, but pressing on, as Marat Calamia still has the fastest lap of the race, and he is behind that KTM, so the gap between them is coming down a little bit. You're looking at Neil Montserrat, still fourth, still chasing after Petrolica as the cars now come to turn 13. 20.5 minutes of the race, still to go. And Philippe Pret is now being caught by Stefan Rossina. There is Calamia ahead now of Christophe Bure. Down towards turn 13 they come. Now there is number 7. We might be able to find out what happened in the pit lane to that Maserati, because Roberto Pampanini is with Alex.
Now, Robert, you said that your race pace is better than your qualifying, and you certainly were pushing hard. But what happened in pit stop?
I don't know, I told you before the start was perfect, and I feel perfect in the car, so I get more in the front, more and more. And then we have some problem, the pit stop with the time. I don't know, we lose 30 seconds. And now, I don't know.
So it was literally an accident by the team to leave you in for 30 seconds?
It's an accident by the team. Something with the stop watch was wrong, yeah. It's 30 seconds loose. So I think the race is done. can be third place, second, third place, but yeah, it's happening.
Bad luck.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow.
They had to serve an extra 5 seconds, but the other 25 have come out of nowhere. So, yeah, it was a very long stop indeed, and it's put the car 6th now, but Calamia has just done on this lap another absolute best in the first sector. Well wound up is Calamia.
Yeah, he's pushing hard, took 2.5 seconds out of the KTM in front of Hommler, so that could be within striking range by the end of the next lap at the rate, and he is perfectly placing that Maserati over these curbs. Another Maserati that's been perfectly placed, and that's why it's leading this race, is Philip Pret in the number 1 car. Rosina took nearly 4 tenths out of him on the last lap, that gap at 10.5 seconds. So if he keeps at this pace, Pret will have enough. Listen to that car growling out of the corner. Sounds brilliant, actually. It's the first time I've had a chance to really hear that Maserati sing as it goes round, but he'll just be bringing this home. 18 minutes to go. He'll be counting down the laps, knowing he's only got 9, possibly 10 flyers to go. But this is it's been a good race so far for Philip Pret.
And equally, were Rossina to catch him, then he is still on target for a class win because he's 45 seconds up the road on Petrolicia. So for the AM category victory, he is absolutely away and gone. Sector 1 of this lap, Rossina was faster, but only by thousandths. Sector 2, hundreds, so there's not that much to choose between them, actually.
Yeah, maybe Rossina's just pushed a bit too hard early on in his stint, taking some life out the tyres, even the brakes. It's quite hard on brakes here, surprisingly. There's a couple of big stops. It gets one chance to cool down here into turn 1, but then goes straight through the roof temperature-wise again, and it is pretty much that pit straight separating them. And as that gap comes across the line, it's still over 10 seconds. So I think this is going to be how it's going to finish up.
So there is Rossina. That gap now 10 seconds, 10.08. It was 12.4, so it's going in the right direction, but we've only got 17 minutes to go. These aren't massive gains per lap. That was only half a second on the last lap. So they need to be bigger increments of time found in order for this to really go Rossina's way. That said, he is in turn lapping faster than Nil Montserrat for the Pro-Am class win.
Yeah, and we see Calamia here now on the back of the KTM. We thought that might be by the end of this lap, and he's carried on there. Where's the straight line performance between these cars? And the Maserati definitely has a bit more than the KTM. Brakes later too, by the looks of it. It's going to sweep across the front and claim 3rd position in class.
Nice move that. So Calamia, Trofeo Maserati champion, class winner at the Nürburgring, Italian GT racer, Formula 2 racer, Formula Renault racer, very, very experienced campaigner is Mauro Calamia, and he goes now through turn 3, not only ahead of Matteo Hommler, but pulling away from Matteo Hommler. We say that KTM is a quick car, it is, but right now it has got nothing to ask of the Maserati, because that's just storming away up the road.
Yeah, we saw the pit stop times flash up there on the timing tower. You can see the 30 seconds lost for that Maserati. That if you take that off their race time, they'd be in 3rd overall, 2nd in class, about 15 seconds behind Stefan Rossina in the Lamborghini. So what might have been there, and this battle, this is a car that's done really well for me. Petrolica has kept Montserrat at arm's length and actually starting to ebb away from him, in fact. So that's been a great job from Petrolica. We saw how quick Montserrat was at Ricard, but it looks like it's the other way around here, and Petrolica has the advantage out of these two.
9.5 seconds now is that lead gap. So Pret to Rossina, coming down a little bit more. That's Petrolica still in 3rd. And here also looking for 2nd in class, which would be their best of the season. He took a pole position, don't forget, Petrolica at Paul Ricard, so he might be new to GT2, but he's got good pace. Nil Montserrat behind, much more the experienced driver. You've got an AM ahead of a Pro-Am entry here, so Nil Montserrat is starting to close that gap down for 3rd place overall. Although that said, Petrolica's last lap was his best of the race. So still finding time.
You can hear the front of the car bottoming out there as a split overhang to front axle and the aggressive nature of turn 3, the camber there, 19 degrees, so the car bottoming out. So the teams will have to monitor that because the carbon fibre splitter on this will wear thin eventually and might need to get replaced. So they may even have to raise the front ride height to give it a bit more leniency as it bottoms out there. But yeah, this has been a strong job from Petrolica.
Has indeed. Oliver Freimuth then with that Damoclesian penalty to serve, falling away in class now. But Christophe Bouret's Mercedes may yet be a target if Freimuth can regroup. That is Montserrat, who is looking at third overall by the end. He is 1.4 seconds back. Lead gap's down to 8.1 seconds then. Last time around, a proper gap found. 1.4 seconds pulled back by Rossina against Pret. That is more like it.
Yeah, it was a bad lap from Pret rather than a good lap from Rossina. It was a green sector 3 for Rossina in his defence there, but is Pret starting to struggle? Was it a simple mistake? Will that simple mistake start to plant a seed of doubt that there's more mistakes in him? His first sector isn't great either in the 34s now, where he's been consistently banging in 33s. Rossina's about to come through, takes 0.4 a second out of him in sector 1 alone. The tide is turning, but will it come all the way in, or will Pret keep his feet dry?
So there you've got the Mercedes battle raging on. In fairness to Matteo Hommler, he is still doing good sectors as well in the KTM, but is in 6th place overall now, 4th in class. But like we said early on, it is, of course, worth continuing because you will get points in the championship.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long championship as well, so sometimes you have a bad day, but if you can rescue something, and by the end of the year, it was worthwhile. Watching Pret so far, looks okay, nothing wrong with the car. Still driving it well, lines are good, attitude of the car looks good. Maybe it's just the tyres starting to go away, and that is all the pace he's got, and the Lamborghini maybe has looked after those tyres. Comes into the middle of the road, quite extreme there. I don't think there's any bumps or anything he's trying to avoid there. Last lap again in the 1:40, so if Rossina can keep this 1:39 trend, which he does, another 1.2 seconds taken away, gap down to 6.8.
So, Pret, Rossina, Leisha, the top 3. Montserrat, Calamia, Hommler, 4, 5 and 6. Bouret, 7th. And Freimuth is in 8th position right now. There is Stefan Rossina. The gap is down again. 6.8 seconds. It's all going in the right direction for him. About 12 minutes to go. Now, the clock's plural, really. One shame the gap, one shame the amount of time left in the race would suggest things are now going back in favour of that Lamborghini. Yeah, I think with the laps we've got remaining, 6.8 seconds could be gone within the next 4, and then that would leave them 2 laps to potentially get an overtake done. And we've seen this Lamborghini very strong at the end of the straights as we flick to Pret coming into turn number 10. You'll see the Lamborghini now. Remember that gap last time we really got this visual was on the pit straight, and it was the full pit straight. The gap there between turns 9 and 10 is a third of that distance-wise, so that really illustrates how that gap from 13, 14 seconds is falling, and still looks like that Maserati is fine, it's just not fast. Is this Philippe Pret tiring? He's had a busy day. I don't mean this in a rude way, but he's had 2 qualifying sessions, or effectively 1, but he would have done 2. But he's done the entirety of the race on his own, and it's a hot car, it's a warm day. There's going to be, towards the end of the race, an element of fatigue, especially as he's up against somebody who's done, in this race, half the amount of driving. Yeah, definitely, for sure, especially the heat element. Both Maserati drivers we spoke to at Ricard were saying how hot it is in that car, and it is getting warmer now. It's 17 degrees ambient, so yeah, and there's just so much heat radiating out of these cars. Yes, the Maserati, like this Lamborghini, have an engine behind you, but the radiators are in front of you, you've got the brakes, and the car just seems to soak all the heat in, and suddenly you're sitting in a very expensive sauna going 270 kilometers an hour. Last lap again, 6/10 taken away, so that's the smallest delta loss he's had in the last 4 laps, but still falling away from it. 6.2 then is the gap, so it's halved really from the starting point when Rossina got into the car. Now there are other battles still going on. Petrolicia is fending off the challenge of Nil Montserrat, who's being reeled in by Mauro Calamia, who has got the fastest lap of the race. Remember, he is absolutely furious with that mistake in the pits, and it's all being channeled, that anger, into a really aggressive stint, and it's working in his favour because he's nearly on the back of not just 1 but 2 Mercedes. Yeah, even this drone shot, you can see him concertinaing up under braking. He was 1.3 seconds faster on the last lap alone, and what's the gap to Montserrat in front right now? 1.3 seconds. So this is going to be a 3-car battle, because Montserrat's actually been catching Petrolica as well. He caught 7/10. Look at that gap. That's come down so quickly. This is what we saw at Ricard, the quite hypnotic
ebb and flow of these cars. They work their tyres so much harder, they're heavier, they've got more power, less aerodynamics. Look at Clamia all over the shop, sent it in there, but it's still gaining. Where's he going to try and get this move done? The Mercedes seems to be the strongest out of all of these cars at the end of the straight. I think Clamia needs to send it down the inside, which he's doing right now. He's got the gap. Can he get the exit?
Let's see, side by side through the corner. And Neil Montserrat tried to stand his ground, but it was to no avail. Clamia coming through, make your own arrangements. So the Maserati jumps through for the place. And by the end of the straight is, what, 2 lengths up the road. So it won't be long, surely, before Petrolisa succumbs as well. Mauro Clamia, we know he's rapid, and he's underlining that fact now. Quickest man on the circuit earlier on in the race, and a top 3 finish beckoned, but also so does second in class. Now, bearing in mind that in the earlier stint, Pampanini struggled to get up through the order. He finally did it. Then they go sliding back down again. But Clamia is, irrespective of the longer pit stop anyway, being able to bring the car further up the order than Pampanini did. Really, really good stint this from Clamia. He's arguably the driver of the race because he has done a mega job there. Meanwhile, Pret to Rossina, 5.5 seconds. The gap, 8 minutes and change on the clock.
Yeah, and also the KTM of Hommler in the background gaining on this battle pack as well. So could be 4 cars very close together. Rossina's taken another half a second out in Sector 1 as well on this lap. So suddenly this race is coming alive with less than 8 minutes remaining. Looks like we've got potentially 3 or 4 overtakes coming in the pipeline, one of them being Clamia on the back of Petrolisa.
There's Hommler then, going down through turn 7. The road drops down, climbs the other side, and here is the battle for third. It's going to be a change any moment. Is Nick Clamia to the inside at turn 9. Petrolisa knows that's not really his battle. Pro-Am versus Am, content to give him the space and let him go by. So up into third place goes Mauro Clamia. This has been a remarkable recovery. He's lost so much ground in the pits, but he's been able to claw it back. And actually now Neil Montserrat is on the back of Leisha, and they're all being caught by Hommler. So here now, third I think he's done, but 4th, 5th, 6th, that could all change by the end.
I fancy Hommler here to get both of these Mercedes and maybe Petrolisa to have a trouble fending off Montserrat there. Lead gap 4.7 seconds as well. How's this looking? 7 minutes remaining. Rossina's kind of lost a little bit of the inroads he was making. It's a good sector from Philip Pret as well in Sector 1. What can Clamia do? He's just going to gap away here. Yeah. He will be pumped up. I'd like to see his reaction when he gets out of the car after this, because if he had taken 30 seconds off him, he could have been right in the battle for this lead overall.
Yeah, I mean, now he's 3/4 of a minute back from Rossina, but lapping very rapidly indeed. He lost a bit of ground on that last lap in traffic. Rossina has got the gap down for the lead to 4.7 seconds and 6.5 minutes to go. I'm now starting to think he's not going to get there in time, but he's certainly not giving up, Rossina.
No, he really isn't. As we see the overtakes for the race, Clamia in a class of his own, 4 cars overtaken at a circuit. We hear so many people going on and on about you can't overtake at Zandvoort. Well, come and watch Clamia in a pumped up state of mind in a Maserati.
This overtake is Lapri. That's Oliver Freimut he's going to dispense with, going down towards turn 8. Job done. Leisha is fending off Montserrat. Montserrat now is easy prey to Hommler, who thinks about the inside line, and he's going to commit to it. Matteo Hommler tries to sneak up the inside in the KTM. He's alongside, but he hasn't quite got the grunt coming out of the corner. That puts him on the outside line for the next left. Neil Montserrat on the inside. Hommler stuck on the outside line, has to try to brave it out, and then he does come out of the corner ahead. I was about to suggest that the grunt of the Mercedes AMG would carry Montserrat ahead on the straight, but Hommler's got the job done. He's bearing down on teammate Petrolisa, who in turn is on the lights to tell Oliver Freimut, I'm coming, please get out of the way.
Yeah, the Mercedes did have the grunt, but the tyres didn't want to accept it and had a big snap of oversteer, and that's what sealed the deal for Hommler. Freimut here is going to get out the way, is he not? No, and he then holds up that Mercedes. Hommler now needs to just fill a gap and has to slam the brakes on, actually, as Petrolisa clams down. Now that gives Montserrat a run. I think Montserrat's going to get back past the KTM on the pit straight.
Let's see, here they come. Montserrat on the inside line, Hommler on the outside. All of the grunt of the Mercedes AMG GT2 kicks in. He's alongside. Hommler stands his ground on the outside. He'll have the inside for the next kink. He's just about ahead coming off the corner. Well done, Matteo Hommler, because that was great defence. Totally clean, and to hang it out on the outside line like that, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, he had to carry in a lot of speed, didn't he, to make that outside line work. Very fair between the two of them. You would see some drivers try and run them up to the exit, but really fair from Montserrat in that silver Mercedes.
So it is Pret, Rosina, the top two, 3.2 seconds, 4.5 minutes on the clock. It is getting closer and closer. Last lap for Pret, a 41.1. For Rosina, 39.7. Here, Petrolicia still battling away. He's got Homola tucked up behind him then. This is a 4th overall. And again, Homola tries his cheeky move at 9. And it works.
Yeah, it's so nice as a driver when you create an overtake and you can just copy and paste it. And that's been a great job by both drivers and the team in that car. Look at the gap. It's come down to 1.7 seconds. We're going to get time for 3 more laps. This is going to be a lot of fun. Philippe Pret has just been going slower and slower. Last lap, 42.0. His best lap of the race was a 38.5. That shows you how much pace that car has lost. And that's a trend as well. That's the problem. Can he bucket and can he dig deep and try and find something to hold on to this overall win?
Let's have a look then as they come down through turn 7. So even if Philippe Pret drops behind the Lamborghini, he will still win his class. So the points that he's going to get in the championship won't be affected. But what he would dearly love is an outright race win as an AM ahead of a Pro-Am. And the more you look at Rosina's pace, the more you think the advantage is with that car hiding itself behind the tree, because here's the leader, and you can see the gap is down. Half a second pullback in sector 1 alone. Never mind over the lap, 1 sector. Half a second pullback. There's only 1.7 between them, so it's going to be 1.2 effectively as they come now into sector 2. The live gap goes up a little bit, in fact, to that point, 1.4 seconds as Pret tries to respond, and he does edge away slightly. But over the course of the lap, Rosina has been looking stronger over the last, 10 laps?
Yeah, exactly that. Did lose 2/10 in sector 2, which was worried because we didn't really see a major mistake from him. He's now been in the car for nearly 30 minutes. As we go back to this Mercedes battle, Monserrat's still behind Petroli, so is he going to try and copy Homola's overtake here into turn 9? He is. Actually looked like Petrolisa was slow off the corner there, then goes in deep. So was that a problem? Oh, it is for Monserrat as he spins around, real lazy spin. Keeps the car running, hopefully, and will get going. But Petrolisa will have the biggest wry smile underneath that helmet, I'm sure, right now.
Yeah, Neil Monserrat, no mug, but there, just a bit keen with the right foot. He's lit up the tyres as he gets going again, and the car jerkily carries on. So Neil Monserrat, strange sort of an incident that, because it's not that high speed a corner. It's not that he's on cold tyres, and he's an experienced driver anyway. However, Monserrat then loops it and stays 6th. Having so briefly been 5th. Here's the lead gap, 1.3 at the start of this lap. There is going to be time for 1 more lap at the end of this. So Rosina, certain laps you think he's going to do it. Now I'm inclined to suggest he ain't going to get there in time because he's just that little bit too far back with 1 more lap to run at the end of this.
Pret just went back down to a low 1:40.0 though, so he lost 2 seconds a lap before and has now doubled down his effort, I think. So Rosina's having to take a lot of narrow entries into corners as well. Don't know if that's a handling deficiency or that's just the style he likes, but he's trying to open these corners up as we see Monserrat here already fully sideways. I think you're right. I think it's a strange one. He's on a tighter line, and I think he's just tried to accelerate too hard with too much steering lock, and the car's just rotated on him. And by the end of the stint, these tyres are right at the end of their life, and I think that's probably just caught him out slightly.
It cost him around about 15 to 20 seconds, that. So quite a costly spin. Leaders go through onto the last lap, and it's 1 second, 1.002. Well, the way that Rosina went on the last lap, he was 4/10 quicker. It's going to be, on that evidence, nose to tail at the finish, but it will be Pret ahead of Rosina, unless this is an absolutely heroic last lap from that car, the Lamborghini in second place. Stefan Rosina then on the power coming out of turn 3.
It has to be through the dunes here. It will be throttle all the way to the floor. Don't you dare lift as you come over the rise, and then have the smallest brake possible into turn 7 as they dive back down the hill.
Sector 1 complete, and it is Rosina 2/10 quicker. So the gap now less than ever, 0.8 of a second. Up now towards turn 8 they go, this short middle sector. It's advantage Maserati, but there, looking down from the drone, Rosina still not clawing back as much time. He takes a tighter line though there at 9. Does that help him at all? Let's see, they wriggle up towards 10, then it's a slow corner. Rosina closing under braking, but then the danger is the car washes out wide coming out of the corner. Pret looking for a class win, but he wants the outright win if he can do it. Same situation for Stefan Rosina behind. Down they come now into the Hans-Ernst Bocht, and a little tiny twitch of the car under braking from Philippe Pret. Rosina is close. He needs another lap, but he ain't going to get it. Here they come towards turn 13. Race 3 of the year in the GT2 European Series powered by Pirelli. It's been a fascinating race with cars' fortunes ebbing and flowing throughout the race. But Philippe Pret, I think, has just been able to turn up the wick at the very, very end to hang on in there. He comes up towards the line. Race 3 of the season in GT2 European Series, won by Philippe Pret. Second across the line, Stefan Rossina. And the gap at the flag is 0.699 of a second. And it was over 12 seconds when their duel started. A long way back for third. Mauro Calamia taking over from Roberto Pampanini. But well done, Philippe Pret. I think he was perhaps giving the tyres a breather, giving himself a breather, and when it got a bit close at the end, he was just able to turn up the wick again. Yeah,
with pressures you make diamonds, and Louis Pret knows about diamonds, right? And this is my driver of the race. Some great pace, some great overtakes as well, so fair play to Camilla here.
Yeah, Mauro Calamia then heading for third place, and for also the fastest lap of the race. He did that on lap 18 of the 35 laps, so lonely in a sense in third place. Matto Homola fourth, but both of them have had good recovery drives in different senses, because of course Calamia lost time in the pits. Homola's car started late from the pit lane, and they get third and fourth, with fifth being Petro Liscia, second again in the AM class, and Nil Montserrat, a rather red-faced sixth after his spin at this part of the racetrack.
Yeah, fourth in class as well, followed up by Bure and Frameth, who will be looking at their pit stop strategy like we highlighted earlier. But great job from Pret there. Sort of zero to hero, really, after his Q2 accident. Still got the witness mark front bumper on, but yeah. Perfect race. Led every single lap, did have the fastest lap until it was stolen away from him as well, so he had pace at times as well.
Stefan Rossina a good charge as well, bearing in mind that the gap was the 14 seconds before the pit window, and then another 10 because of the extra time that this car had to serve. So to get the gap down to under 7/10 of a second, that was quite something from the experienced Stefan Rossina, who probably now wishes he'd never really given up on motor racing. He went off to build a car accessory business back home, the Slovakian. But he was always quick in Porsches, always quick in the FIA GT1 days, raced Lamborghinis in that, and has been very, very impressive since he came into the championship. So the cars there being, in some cases, waved through for the podium, such as the Lamborghini, and Christophe Bure's car also allowed by. I thought some were going to be waved straight into the collecting area, but not to be. Marshall's on track, just in case. There is then the winning car, and for an AM to win outright is quite something with this level of competition. Bravo, Philippe Pret. It also shows how the pit stop compensation time works, sometimes for you, sometimes against. But after a bruising Q2, a race win in race 1 is the perfect antidote.
Yeah, for an AM to win overall is hard, like you said. Hasn't happened since Red Bull 2022, and that's Pret's first overall win as well. You can see the team happy, actually struggling to open the door. I think that's a legacy of the damage from qualifying earlier as well, so great job. And you can see the relief. He's been hyper-focused and putting all his effort in for the last hour, so great job to the whole team there at LP Motorsport.
So Philippe Pret, who was the category champion last season, former Ferrari Asia Pacific title winner, twice a champion in that. He raced Carrera Cup in France as well, so certainly an experienced driver, and now an outright race winner as well. So a good job done as the cars arrive then for the podium, and there the car of Christophe Bure and Pascal Gibon, which takes third in AM. Christophe Bure being attended to by the team. Everything unplugged and unconnected, wriggles his way out of the car, and a class podium for Christophe Bure and Pascal Gibon. Take a quick look at the rear of the car, and no doubt a big glug of liquid ready to be taken on board as well. So Philippe Pret it is who takes a race win, and with the margin being just under 7/10 of a second. Bravo, Philippe Pret. He's with Alex.
Beautifully done. Philippe Pret takes not only the AM win, but the overall win as well. After a very tricky qualifying, the team did a great job, and you were absolutely flying.
Yes, flying but exhausted.
Yeah.
Very happy for the team, for everybody, because it was complicated. 5 minutes before departure, the car was not ready. And finally, we do it. And I've pushed all the way. Now I'm exhausted.
I did wonder, the last sort of 10 or so laps, it looked like there was a bit of a drop-off. Was that car tyre drop-off, or was that Philippe Pret driver drop-off?
Tire drop off. The team told me to not push too much of a push, because in the category I was leading. And after, when we have seen that maybe I can win the general, they asked me back to push, and it's okay. We do it for short, but we do it.
You did it, and you did it well. Man of the match. Well done, you.
Thank you.
Good job by Philippe Pret. Good job by the team as well, as he was saying, having to rebuild the car almost in the build-up to the race. And there you can see that slightly quirky looking front, not liveried up, but everything fitted together, and the car proving to be absolutely okay. So Philippe Pret taking a first outright win for the reigning AM champion. Pro-Am victory then to Stefan Rossina and Bronek Formanek, and they were oh so close to an outright win.
Stefan Bronek, I know you wanted more, and you actually don't look that happy. Is that because you were expecting a little bit more pace, like you said, in qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. Now I think that we are fastest and the BOP goes against us. So if this continues, we will need to think whether we will continue this championship. So it is not about we are happy. It's 8 cars. You would like to be part of it, but it can't be that now we're going to have, let's say, the slowest car on the straight. It doesn't make fun, because eventually we come here to race and show as who we are as a race drivers. So this is a bit sad, but anyhow, we are quite happy. We are with Bronek, I think, quite good pairing, which is a competitive advantage, and we enjoy that.
Good stuff. Well done, Bronek.
Thank you.
So Stefan Rossina certainly giving strident opinions. Of course, every driver wants to be faster, don't they?
Yeah, I wish you'd say what he really thinks about it. But yeah, I get his frustrations. I've been on both ends of balance performance. When you're suddenly very fast, you think it's you, not the balance performance. And when you're a bit off, you go to the easiest blame point. But
and one circuit doesn't make a championship, does it? Okay, it might be here that the car is slightly down on the BOP, but you could go somewhere else and it might be a completely different animal.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't look a million miles off when we were watching him really in the class lead, and one more lap could have won that race.
Exactly, and bear in mind, Stefan Rossina's pace to be fastest in Q2. So here at Zandvoort then, the grid starts to get busy with the teams for the next race, which is GT World Challenge Europe. Philippe Pret wins race 1 in GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli, from Bronek Formanek and Stefan Rossina, who still win their class. Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calami are recovering for third. Fourth going the way of Laura Kreimer and Mata Hommler from the pit lane start. Andre Rokosh and Petro Elisha fifth, ahead of a car that had a bit of a fade and also a spin. Alberto De Martin and Neil Montserrat's Mercedes AMG, Pascal Gibon and Christophe Bourret ahead of the penalised Oliver Freimuth. Class winners then, Philippe Pret for AM, Pro-Am, Bronek Formanek and Stefan Rossina. So it is the first race of the weekend for GT2 European Series done. The grid for race 2, based on a separate qualifying session rather than today's results. They will race again tomorrow morning, 9:25. We will be on air for the second GT2 race of the weekend. We'll see whether or not that Lamborghini is able to do anything about Maseratis, with different pit stop compensation times to factor in tomorrow as well. Thanks for your company today. We'll see you tomorrow for more from the GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli.